Hey deep divers, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. It really helps us out. Today we're diving deep into the upcoming election with some exclusive insights from Vice President Kamala Harris's interview with NBC News. And you know what? This isn't just about her campaign promises. She gets real about how she'd handle a certain someone. You know who I'm talking about. Potentially trying to pull a fast one on election night. Buckle up, because things are about to get interesting.
What's fascinating here is how Harris tackles the possibility of her opponent, former President Trump, declaring victory prematurely, just like he did back in 2020. Remember that whole saga?
Oh yeah, it's like watching a slow-motion train wreck, except with democracy hanging in the balance.
Exactly. But Harris isn't letting that memory phase her. She confidently states that her team has the resources, expertise, and focus to challenge any attempts to subvert the election.
Okay, I gotta know what exactly does that look like. Is she talking about having a secret army of election lawyers ready to pounce?
Well, maybe not an army, but you're on the right track. Think legal teams on standby, ready to file lawsuits at a moment's notice. Election observers strategically placed in key states to ensure everything's running smoothly at the polls. And of course, a communication strategy that could rival a NASA launch ready to combat misinformation before it spreads like wildfire.
Whoa. So basically, she's coming prepared for anything. But it gets even more intense when she brings up January 6th. It's like she's drawing a direct line from Trump's election denial to that dark day in American history. And she even mentions the 5 officers who died in its aftermath, including the 4 who tragically took their own lives. It's a powerful reminder of what's at stake.
It's a sobering reminder that undermining democratic processes has real-world consequences. This isn't just a political game. It's about protecting the very foundation of our nation. But amidst all this potential drama, Harris doesn't lose sight of the bigger picture. She wants to move beyond division and hate and build a future where everyone feels like they belong.
And she gets specific about how she plans to do that.
Right.
It's not just feel-good rhetoric.
You're absolutely right. For example, she talks about investing in rural broadband and affordable childcare as ways to bridge the urban-rural divide and support working families. It's a clear signal that she's committed to addressing the root causes of division and inequality.
That's super interesting. It's like she's saying, hey, let's stop fighting and start investing in what actually brings us together. It's a refreshing change of pace from all the political bickering we're used to.
And there's another strategic move she makes in this interview. When asked about a potential pardon for Trump if he were to be convicted of any of the charges he's facing, she masterfully dodges the question.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's like she knew that question was coming and had the perfect sidestep ready to go.
Instead of getting bogged down in hypotheticals, she keeps her focus laser sharp on winning the election and tackling the challenges facing the country. It's a way of saying, look, I'm not interested in political games. I'm here to do the job.
That makes a lot of sense. It shows she's not letting herself get distracted by all the noise and speculation surrounding her opponent. She's got her eyes on the prize.
It's a smart strategy, especially in today's hyper-partisan climate. By refusing to engage with the pardon question, she avoids alienating potential voters and keeps the conversation focused on the issues that matter most to them.
Okay, so we've got Harris prepared for election chaos, focused on unity and concrete solutions, and strategically sidestepping the pardon question. But the interview also touches on something pretty personal, right?
Absolutely. Harris is asked about being the first woman of color to be a major party's presidential nominee and how that plays into her campaign.
Right. And her answer is super interesting. It's not about making history for herself. It's about serving the American people. She's basically saying, I'm a woman, I'm a person of color, but that's not what defines me. I'm here to do the job.
It's a powerful message, especially for young girls and women of color who are looking for role models in leadership.
Totally. And it ties into her overall message of moving beyond division and embracing our shared humanity. It's like she's saying we're all Americans and we're all in this together.
That's a great point. It's not just about policies. It's about shifting the entire narrative of our politics away from division and towards something more hopeful and inclusive.
I love it. But before we get too carried away, there's one more intriguing aspect of this interview that we need to explore.
You're talking about her vision for America's future, right? She's not just reacting to her opponent. She's presenting her own bold vision for what our country can be.
Exactly. And she ties it all together so beautifully, from election preparedness to policy proposals to personal identity. It's like she's weaving a tapestry of leadership, resilience, and hope.
And you know, that vision is resonating with a lot of people who are tired of the constant negativity and gridlock in our politics. They're looking for a leader who can offer a different path, a way forward.
It's like she's saying, hey, we've been through a lot, but we're not broken. We can build something better together.
That's a powerful message, and it's one that I think a lot of people are hungry for.
Okay, deep divers, that's a lot to digest. Before we move on to the next part, make sure you like, subscribe, and comment. We love hearing from you. We'll be right back to continue our deep dive into this fascinating interview.
So, picking up right where we left off, it's kind of interesting how Harris really frames this whole election as like a turning point, a pivotal moment in American history. She's not just saying, hey, vote for me. It's more like, choose what kind of country you want.
It is a bold statement for sure. Like she's saying, this is not just another election. This is our chance to rewrite the ending to a pretty crazy chapter.
Exactly. And she connects that directly to her running, to her being a candidate.
Right.
She's positioning herself as the leader who can get us through all this craziness and into a better future.
It's a pretty compelling story, isn't it? It's like she's painting a picture of two paths. One leads to more division and all this uncertainty, and the other leads to unity and progress.
Yeah.
And a renewed sense of purpose for the country.
Yeah. And she's asking voters to choose that second path, the unity one.
Right.
It's a powerful appeal to our better nature, to that desire for a more perfect union, which has always been part of the American story.
It's really fascinating how she manages to weave together all these different ideas in one interview. Yeah. It's honestly like a masterclass in political messaging.
Yeah, for sure. She's hitting those immediate concerns, like the whole election interference thing, the shadow of January 6th. But she's also painting a broader vision for the future, and it's all with this incredible confidence and optimism.
It's a message that really seems to connect with a lot of people, especially those who are tired of all the negativity and the gridlock in politics. They're looking for something different, something more hopeful.
Absolutely. She's offering a way forward, a way to move past all the divisions and build something new and better.
Okay, but let's get real for a sec. We've talked about her vision, her strategy, her message. But there's one last piece of this interview I think deserves a little extra attention.
You're talking about how she answers the question about her gender and race.
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's subtle, but it's important. She doesn't shy away from her identity as a woman of color. She owns it, but she doesn't let it be the only thing about her.
I think what's interesting to me is how she walks that line. She recognizes how significant it is that she's running. The fact that she could be the first female president, the first president of color. But she doesn't make that the center of everything.
It's like she's saying, yes, I'm a woman. Yes, I'm a person of color, but I'm also a qualified leader with a vision. Judge me on what I can do, not on my identity.
And she doesn't let her opponents use her identity as a weapon against her. She turns it into a strength.
It's powerful, especially for young girls and women of color who need those role models in leadership. It's like a reminder that you don't have to fit into a box to be successful. Be yourself, embrace who you are, and you can still achieve great things.
For sure. It's about breaking down those barriers and changing how we think about what a leader looks like.
Okay, that's pretty inspiring. But let's get back to the election. We've covered a lot in this deep dive, but there's one crucial question that hasn't been answered. And it's probably on everyone's mind right now.
The big question: how will this election actually go down? Will we see another 2020? With people trying to mess with the results, will democracy actually win out in the end?
Right. It's like the question. And honestly, after everything we've talked about, it's a little scary to think about. We've seen just how fragile our democracy can be.
Yeah, it's understandable to feel that way, but we're not helpless, We, the voters, have a part to play in making sure this election is fair and democratic.
Okay, I'm listening. What can we do besides voting, obviously?
Well, first of all, we got to be informed, learn about the voting process, the candidates, the issues. The more we know, the less likely we are to fall for misinformation and all that.
So basically become election experts. Got it.
Yeah.
But how do we know we're getting the right info? There's so much out there, it's hard to know what to trust.
Yeah, it can definitely feel overwhelming.
Right.
But instead of spiraling, let's think about what we can do. Our actions matter, even the small ones.
Okay, so besides voting, what are some things we can actually do to protect the election?
Well, a strong democracy really depends on informed citizens. So first things first. We got to level up our knowledge, dig into the candidates' platforms, understand the key issues, and be aware of the different voting rules in your state. The more you know, the less likely you are to be fooled by misinformation.
Okay, so basically become election experts. Challenge accepted. But how do we even know we're getting the right info in the first place? There's so much noise out there, it's tough to know what to trust.
That's where critical thinking comes in. Right? Don't just take everything you see or hear at face value. Look for real reporting from sources you know are good. Fact check those viral posts before you share them. Think about it. Have you ever felt unsure about how to actually verify information about the election? Like, what sources do you actually trust?
That's a good point. It's easy to get swept up in all the social media stuff and the partisan news outlets. We need to be smart about it. Make sure we're getting our info from places we can rely on.
Exactly. And this isn't just about protecting ourselves from the fake stuff. It's about protecting our democracy. When we share good info and talk about things in a civil way, we help create a better and more informed public.
Right. Okay, so we're informed. What about on election day itself? What should we be looking out for? Like, are there any signs that tell us something's not right at the polls?
Oh, that's a great question. And it's one we should all be thinking about. Imagine you're at your polling place. What would make you feel confident that everything is fair and transparent? And on the other hand, what would make you suspicious?
That's a good point. I think I'd be looking for things like clear instructions, poll workers who know what they're doing, and just a smooth, organized process. Red flags. Well, things like really long wait times with no explanation, technical issues, or any kind of intimidation stuff.
Exactly. Those are all great examples. Just being aware of what's going on around you, paying attention to how things are running, and speaking up if you see anything that seems wrong. Those are all ways we can help ensure a fair election.
So we're all election detectives now, armed with knowledge and a healthy dose of skepticism.
Exactly. It's our responsibility to be active in our democracy. It's not just about voting, it's about being watchful and holding those in power accountable.
Okay, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling kind of empowered here. We may not have all the answers, but we can definitely do something.
That's the spirit. Even little things can have a big impact. So stay informed, stay engaged, and make your voice heard.
And on that note, we've reached the end of our deep dive into this amazing interview with Kamala Harris. We hope you learned something new, saw things from a different angle, and maybe even felt a little bit of hope for the future of our democracy.
Remember, knowledge is power, and thinking critically is our best weapon. So go out there, make informed decisions, talk to each other respectfully, and keep that democratic spirit alive and well.
And one last thing before we go. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. Let us know what you thought of this deep dive. We love hearing from you. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and most importantly, stay engaged.